Welcome back, folks, to Off the Cuff with Steve Roberts. In this segment, we'll be covering a remarkable time from the 1970s and 1980s when a partnership of Rod Coleman, Steve Roberts and Dick Lawton took the racing motorcycle world by storm. We're here today to talk to Steve about his story and his involvement in that incredible time. So Steve, here we are, and can you tell us how that partnership got underway?
Originally, right from the very start, we built a beach racer for Dick Lawton. Dick was an ace motorcycle tuner, par excellence, and we built this twin-cylinder motorcycle for beach racing, specifically for beach racing.
Yep.
We rubber mounted the motor, and somehow or other, Dick must have passed on to Rod that I could make motorcycle frames, I don't know, that would be something. And the next thing I knew, Dick came round to me in Ohio Valley in my house. He came in especially to see me, and he said, we've got something big going to go down. And I said, Dick, what is it? He said, well, I can't tell you too much, but we want you to build a Suzuki racing bike for Rod Coleman. And Rod's name was pretty dramatic in those days.
Yes, it was.
He was the person to in the motorcycle world.
Yes.
I said, okay, Dick, okay, that's how we'll start. We'll build one. Yeah, okay, if you want me to. I'll need one to copy, because I wouldn't be able to design better than Suzuki. So he said, okay, and that was all I heard. The next thing I knew, Dick had a frame there for me to copy.
Yeah.
It was bent.
Yes.
Sonny So, a chap in what was it, Indonesia somewhere, Sonny crashed it, and it came to New Zealand for me to fix. And I was able to use it to make a jig for the TR Suzukis, and that's how it started.
So, crashed bike out of Indonesia to get
Sonny's
started
bike,
on.
yes.
Yeah.
And so that's how we actually started.
Right.
And we built. I think Rod said, I was thinking, oh, I can do one frame. It'd be great to do it for Rod Coleman.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Number one guy in the country for bikes. Yeah. But he got in touch and said, I want three. I want three.
Right.
Well, can you imagine it?
Yeah. And describe the bikes that we're talking about here.
Well, this is the bike we built in 1971.
Right.
And this is an exact copy of the Suzuki's.
So that's a 500? 500 cc.
two-stroke.
500 two-stroke. Yeah. So that's at world champion level. That's the top level.
This is the one that it was the top in those like MotoGP today. This was the top line in motor racing.
Wow.
Dick, of course, had to modify things. He could never leave it as it was. So we put Timken bearings in the head stem. We put needle rollers in the swinging arm, and later we made square sections swinging arm to stiffen it up. It was an interesting time. Interesting time.
And from there, in terms of the riders, where did who were the top riders in those days on the two strokes?
It's so interesting. Not only was I building this frame for Rod Coleman, he says, we've got several riders we can use on these, and Keith Turner will be my number one rider.
Right.
Which he sponsored. And he's going to do the World Championships on it.
Right.
God, blimey.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how you feel?
Big challenge.
Well, it's a big challenge for me. Thinking, God, making motocross bikes and having fun on the grass and all that. And the next thing I know, I'm building a Grand Prix bike for Keith Turner. And Keith went out there to Europe, and the first race was Finland, the Finnish Grand Prix. I was tutoring at the time, and was 7:30 at night. I'd just finished an evening class, and the phone rings, and it was Peter Lawton, that Dick's son. He said, "We've got some results from Finland," and he said, "Keith Turner was second to Agostini in the 500 Grand Prix." Gee, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it knocked
yeah,
I was over the moon.
Yeah, and that's how he finished at the end of that World Championships. He was
Yes,
runner-up, wasn't
yes.
he, to Giacomo Agostini?
Absolutely.
And it was huge. I mean, Agostini was the god,
Oh,
and Turner was the only one to really give him a run.
Oh no, they were. It was pretty good. Pretty
Was
hectic.
it others
But
in there? But
Agostini was factory envy, of course.
yes, yeah.
But all the other riders were privateers.
Yes,
Literally.
yeah.
Braun had a work Suzuki. There were several guys there with bikes, but not sponsored by the works.
Right. So the age of the privateer was drawing to
Absolutely.
a close.
It was the age of the privateer.
Yeah, yeah.
But Keith did so well, and second overall in the championship, which was
Yes.
as close as we'd ever get.
Yes, yeah,
to fame
yeah,
and fortune.
Yeah, yeah. And Jeff Perry was another one who rode the bikes.
Yes, well, Jeff had a works Suzuki. He actually had the genuine article.
Right.
And Len, his dad, Rod brought the bike in,
Yes.
but Len and Jeff worked the bike. And what happened with that bike was, Jeff used to fly from New Zealand over to the States with the bike, do the race, and come back. He was an apprentice at the time. So he'd leave halfway through the week to go to America,
Yeah, yeah.
race in all the big circuits,
Yeah, yeah.
and then fly back to New Zealand, back to his apprenticeship in New Zealand.
Really?
It
That's
was
extraordinary.
amazing. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for Jeff, he crashed the bike heavily. I think it was Ontario, I'm not sure. But he crashed it really badly,
Right.
and he smacked, the front forks had gone, the whole front end was tucked right underneath. And so the bike came back to New Zealand.
Right.
And he said, "Can you fix this?"
Yeah.
So I said, "Yeah, sure." I put a new headstock in it, and we cut it about here, and cut it at the bottom.
Yeah.
I made a complete new front end for the bike with
Yeah.
Timken bearings, which was quite good. You hold the front forks really well. Then he raced that.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, about 2 races later in the States, he crashed it again and broke the back end off. And so we were able to cut it back where I'd welded, top and bottom, make a whole new back end with a square section swinging arm, which is quite rigid,
Yes.
and a reinforcement at the back so the whole frame was more solid, and new tanks and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So in the end, his work Suzuki turned out to be a Coleman Suzuki, as we called them. We all called them Coleman Suzuki.
And this is
This
is the bike.
No, this is one.
It's
we built.
it's
This
the
was-
same bike, but
I think this one was built for John
Yeah,
Boot,
right.
and it went down to Tommy McCleary,
Right.
who was a Suzuki agent down in
Right.
Christchurch.
Right.
But I don't think John rode this.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but just to be clear, you're building these here
Oh yes.
for these guys.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, it's a long way back, and maybe numbers are hard to do.
I never really kept.
Yeah.
I never ever numbered them.
Yes.
I don't know why. I just didn't have any number stamps at the time.
Yeah.
And I never really numbered them. But I do know that Rod imported 19 Ciriani front forks.
Right. Right.
And
Okay.
when Rod told me, he said,
Yeah.
they got back to him and said, "You want 19? That's the biggest order we've ever had."
Yes,
And so
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
he got them, and I know we used all the forks on the
Yeah,
bike, so
yeah,
that would be at
yeah.
least, I suppose, 19
Yeah, yeah,
bikes
yeah.
overall.
We can't talk to Dick Lawton because he's gone.
No,
Rod's
it's
gone
very
too.
sad.
But
Oh.
did the two of you? Did he talk about it? Did you have a conversation with Rod around that partnership towards the end of his days? If he was alive today, he'd be 96. Apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time with Rod.
Yes.
And when he retired from Suzuki New Zealand, he started restoring bikes.
Right.
And
right.
between he and I and a whole load of very talented engineers in this area,
Yeah. Yeah.
we restored quite a few Bella
Yeah,
sets,
yeah.
Excelsiors, Nortons,
Yeah,
NSUs.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
quite fun.
Yeah.
So I had quite a lovely relationship with,
Yes.
with Rod.
Yes. Yeah.
And with Dick Lawton, he did all the motors for the for the Suzukis.
Right.
The 250s. He made a 353,
Yep.
a 350, and the 500s, and he modified all the motors.
Right. Right. So let be
Sorry.
clear here. No. So when Keith Turner won it was second in the Worlds to
Yes.
Agostini, he was riding a Dick Lawton tuned engine,
Absolutely.
a Steve Roberts built bike.
Absolutely, and Rod Coleman sponsored
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole
Yes.
shebang. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
The motors, Dickie was so incredible guy. We take the sleeves out of the barrel,
Yes. Yeah.
and he would use his grinder to grind in the new ports, and he'd go through out into the open air.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, Dick, what are you going to do there? But I'll never be able to weld that up. That's a bit tricky for me to weld that back. He said, oh, no, don't worry about that. And he got some hacksaw blades and bent them to shape that he wanted.
Yes.
And then built up around it with araldite,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
composite, araldite resin.
Yeah.
Put it in the oven, cooked it all up, and he was racing motors with ported with araldite. Don't ask me how it worked.
My heart is starting to strain at this stage. So
Years and years later, I had some guy came to me and he said, I've got this blooming Suzuki motor. Would you know someone's been messing about and built ports out of araldite? I said, where is the motor? It's a valuable piece of motor.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fascinating. The bikes you've built, the people who've raced them at great speed.
Oh gosh.
You must have a very strong mindset to cope with that in terms of the mental pressure that you could allow yourself around that one. Yeah.
Well, it's a strange thing when you see these young men. Well, I was pretty young then, but the young men going out on that track and putting their lives on the line, which is honestly that's what it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because they want to be first.
Yeah.
And you have your heart in your. You're really worried about these, but then you can't worry.
That's right.
Because it's all part of the game.
That's right. It's choice.
It's all part of the game, and they choose to do it, and they want to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
So there we are.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't explain it.
No, I think probably we can't.
Why do you want to win?
Yeah. I think one of the things about motorcycling, from my relatively brief experiences, is the competition, the desire for, you're out there and it's fast, the adrenaline's pumping.
Absolutely.
And then after you've finished, you think, if you haven't fallen off, you think that was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you have to have been there, like with the motocross days.
Yeah.
We'd be sitting on the line, and there may be 20 or so many bikes all revving up.
Yeah.
But you're sitting on the line, waiting for the elastic to drop or the flag to drop, and it just takes over. The adrenaline takes over.
Yes.
And it's just no matter whether you're first or last, it's still such a thrill to be able to be involved with it all. Sorry.
So Steve, coming back to this magnificent machine and the people who made it. Thoughts around that
era.
That era.
Well, when you think back, like today, being, you know, how I am today with a bloody stroke and all that, reliving all these memories, I mean, must be boring for so many people, but to me it's such a part of life it
Yes,
was.
yes.
And we had, when you think of the riders, we had Keith Turner, we had Jeff Perry, Dale Wiley, John Boot, Mike Sinclair. Oh, there were more,
Yeah.
many more, but
Yes.
all five really top of
Yes.
the line riders, all riding bikes we built in our shed.
Wow, yeah.
And Dickie
Yeah.
did
That's-
the motors for a couple of the guys.
Yes.
And Mike Sinclair and his team down in Christchurch did the others.
Wow.
Mike had a little 250. We did a 250 for Mike. And he won the New Zealand Championship on it.
Brilliant.
This is before he became famous with Yamaha and Kenny Roberts and all those types.
Yes.
But Mike was a very, very talented man. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
just thought I had to mention the other riders
Yes.
and bikes.
Yes.